First time Earth heard the signal, no one believed it was real. Came in the middle of the night on a frequency no one used anymore. Old military channel left silent for decades. At first, the scientists at the deep space listening post in Nevada thought it was just static, a glitch from the ancient receiver. But then, buried inside the hiss, came a sound that froze every person in the control room. A voice. It wasn't speaking English, wasn't speaking any human language. The tones were layered, metallic, almost like a chorus of different creatures speaking at once. The sound carried weight, like it wasn't just speaking words, but giving commands. No one in the room moved. Every second they listened, the hairs on their arms stood up higher. Something about the sound felt wrong, as if it didn't belong. In the quiet, safe space of Earth, Dr. Elena Warren, the senior linguist on duty, leaned over the console and pressed her headphones closer to her ears. "This is not random noise," she whispered. "It's structured. Someone is talking to us." But the strange thing was, the message wasn't aimed at Earth. It was like they had stumbled upon someone else's private conversation, a transmission that should have been impossible to catch. For hours, the team recorded the signal, running it through every decryption program they had. Symbols began to emerge on the screen, strange shapes and glowing patterns, unlike any alphabet on Earth. Then, just before sunrise, the message cut off. The channel went dead. The silence after it ended felt heavier than the sound itself. Before anyone could relax, the main computer flashed a red alert. "Source detected," the system announced. "Origin, not within solar system." The coordinates appeared on the screen and the room went quiet. The location was more than 300 light-years away. Normally, such a discovery would be sent to the United Nations immediately, pass through endless layers of government approval. But before Dr. Warren could contact anyone, another alert came through a private channel, secure, military only. Deep male voice spoke, calm but urgent. "This information is classified. Do not transmit. Secure your files. A team is on the way." And the line went dead. The scientists exchanged nervous glances. It wasn't often that the military moved this fast. 2 hours later, black unmarked helicopters arrived at the facility. Men and women in dark uniforms swept through the building, collecting hard drives, sealing equipment in heavy black cases. No explanations were given. No one spoke more than they had to. The scientists were told to go home, not to talk to anyone, and to forget what they had heard. But Dr. Warren couldn't forget. The sound was burned into her mind. It wasn't just alien, it was urgent, like it was meant to reach someone in a hurry. That night, unable to sleep, she went over the few notes she had managed to keep hidden in her jacket pocket. She replayed the rhythm of the tones in her head, tapping them out on her kitchen table. The more she listened, the more she was certain. The message wasn't random. It was a warning. But a warning to who, and about what? Across the country. In a classified underground facility, the military had already decrypted part of the signal. The words, if they could be called words, spoke of Territory 17. Breach in containment, an unidentified species entering controlled space. But the part that made the general in charge go pale was the final fragment. Humans have crossed the line. No one in the room understood how. Humanity had never even left its own star system. The next morning, the president was briefed. She listened in silence as the recording played. When it ended, she simply said, "If they think we've crossed into their territory, they'll come looking for us." Her national security advisor swallowed hard. "Madam President, if they're already here, in the blackness of space, far beyond the orbit of Pluto, something enormous drifted silently. It wasn't a ship in the way humans understood. Shipsit was almost organic. Shaped like the shell of some deep-sea creature, its surface rippling as if alive. Lights pulsed along its ridges, beating like a slow, patient heart. Inside, creatures, unlike anything on Earth, turned their many eyes toward a glowing sphere on their charts Earth. They had heard the same message, and unlike the humans, they understood exactly what it meant. The news never reached the public. Officially, nothing had happened. The strange signal was never recorded, and no government on Earth admitted to receiving it. But in hidden hangars and underground labs, something was moving fast. Orders were being sent to bases no one knew existed, and scientists who worked on secret projects were suddenly reassigned. Dr. Alina Warren found herself summoned without explanation to a remote airfield in Alaska. A cold wind whipped across the runway as she stepped off the military transport plane. Ahead of her stood a massive hangar, its steel doors shut tight. 2 armed guards waved her forward, checking her ID twice before allowing her inside. The air inside was warmer, but it carried a strange metallic scent, like a thunderstorm was about to break. In the center of the hangar sat an aircraft, or something that looked like one. It wasn't shaped like any plane Alina had ever seen. Its surface was dark, almost black, but not matte light seemed to bend around it, making its edges blur. It was small compared to a passenger jet, yet something about it made her feel tiny. It had no visible engines, no cockpit windows, and no markings at all. The skin of the craft pulsed faintly, almost as if it were breathing. A tall man in a Navy uniform approached her. His voice was calm, but his eyes were sharp. "Dr. Warren, welcome to Project Blackstar. What you're looking at is not entirely human-made." Lena stared at the object, her mouth dry. "Not entirely?" she asked. The man didn't answer. He simply gestured for her to follow him. They walked along a catwalk that circled the craft. From above, she could see faint lines running across its surface, like veins under skin. Technicians in hazard suits worked silently around it, scanning it with strange handheld devices. Every so often, a ripple of light would move across the hull, and the instruments would spike. "We recovered this in the Arctic 5 years ago," the officer finally said, "buried deep in the ice. We don't know who built it, or when." Alina stopped walking. "You think it's connected to the signal?" The man gave her a long look. "We don't think. We know." He handed her a tablet. On the screen was a waveform one she recognized instantly. It was the same alien signal they had heard in Nevada, but this one was responding. Her hands trembled as she scrolled through. The data, the strange tones she'd heard before, were now interlaced with new sounds, shorter, sharper bursts. She didn't need to be told what they were. They were coordinates. They weren't pointing to deep space. They were pointing to Earth. That night, in a secure observation room, Alina watched as the craft came to life. Without warning, its surface lit up with thousands of pinpoints of light, forming patterns that shifted faster than the human eye could. Follow. A low hum filled the hangar, vibrating through the floor. The technicians backed away, but no one touched it. The craft had not been turned on by human hands. It had awakened on its own, miles away. In a different part of the world, strange events were already unfolding. Fishermen off the coast of Japan reported seeing stars rising from the ocean before vanishing into the clouds. In South America, farmers found enormous circles burned into their fields overnight. In Siberia, an entire village lost power for 3 days, and when it returned, every watch and clock in the town showed the same wrong time. The incidents were dismissed as coincidences. But in the hidden halls of Project Blackstar, the dots were being connected. The craft, they realized, was not just receiving signals, it was sending them. Alina watched as its pulses grew faster. Over the next few days, as if it were in conversation with something far away, what unsettled her most was the timing. The signals always came right after midnight, always in threes. On the 4th night, something different happened. Instead of 3 pulses, the craft emitted a long, continuous tone that rattled the windows. The technicians scrambled to shut it down, but nothing worked. And then, just as suddenly as it started, the tone stopped. The lights on the craft went dark. Everyone in the room held their breath. Outside the hangar, the sky erupted. A streak of white fire tore across the horizon, moving faster than any meteor. It split into 3 smaller streaks, each heading in a different direction. Radar stations across the world reported unknown objects entering Earth's atmosphere. But by the time fighter jets were scrambled, the objects had vanished. Back in the control room, a technician turned to Alina, his face pale. "We just tracked their landing sites," he said. "One in the Amazon, one in Antarctica, and one just outside Washington, D.C. In the dead of night, deep in a forest not far from the U.S. Capitol, something stirred. It was small compared to the Arctic craft, no bigger than a truck, but it moved like it was alive. Its surface shimmered in the moonlight as it unfolded strange insect-like limbs. It paused, as if listening to something only it could hear. Then, it began to move, heading toward the city. Back in Alaska, alarms blared. The craft in the hangar had reactivated, but this time it wasn't sending signals, it was projecting images. Lena's eyes widened as she saw them. Distorted shapes, shadowy forms, and finally, the unmistakable outline of a planet, Earth. The images zoomed in, showing the 3 landing sites. Then came the final image, a human figure standing alone, marked with a glowing symbol on their chest. "Who is that?" Alina whispered. The officer beside her didn't answer. He was staring at the image with a look she couldn't quite read, part fear, part recognition. And somewhere, far above Earth, in the black silence of space, another ship, vast and ancient, was already turning its nose toward the blue planet, following the trail of the signal. It had been waiting for centuries. Now it was coming. The crew of the Odyssey Dawn had seen many strange things in space. They had traveled near collapsing stars, crossed the edge of black holes, and drifted through silent asteroid fields where no light touched. But what they saw now was something none of them had words for. The massive structure floated in the darkness, like a city carved from silver and crystal. It wasn't orbiting any planet. It seemed to be anchored to nothing, standing still in space like a monument to the impossible. Its towers shimmered faintly, reflecting starlight in colors that didn't even exist on Earth. And every few seconds, a faint pulse of light ran across its surface, like the heartbeat of something alive. "Is it a ship?" whispered Lieutenant Avery, her voice trembling. Captain Reeves didn't answer immediately, simply stared at it, eyes narrowed, as if trying to understand the logic behind something far beyond human engineering. "It's too big for a ship," he finally said. "It's too big for anything we've ever built." They didn't know it yet, but this was no ordinary encounter. This was the edge of the Galactic Empire, an ancient civilization that spanned thousands of star systems. Humans had just stumbled into their front yard. A flicker of motion appeared on the ship's sensors. Something was moving fast straight toward them. 3 small craft emerged from the shimmering city, shaped like blades of silver. They didn't glide. They cut through space, silent and perfect, without the faintest energy signature. "Captain, they're hailing us," said Communications Officer Lane, his voice tight. The bridge went silent as a strange sound filled the room. It wasn't a human voice. It wasn't even a language anyone recognized. It was like hearing a whisper from inside your own mind. Captain Reeves held up a hand. "Can't," Lane said. "It's not in the system. It's like they're speaking in concepts, not words." The alien ship stopped less than 100 meters from the Odyssey Dawn. No weapons were visible, but the tension in the air was crushing. One wrong move, and the humans knew they could be erased in an instant. Then something unexpected happened. A single image flashed across every screen on the bridge. It wasn't a warning. It wasn't a demand. It was a picture of Earth. No one moved. No one spoke. The aliens had shown them their home, as if to say, "We know where you come from." "What does that mean?" Avery whispered. But no one had an answer. The 3 alien craft rotated slowly, then began to move away. For a moment, the humans thought the encounter was over. But just before disappearing into the shimmering city, one of the ships released a small metallic sphere. It floated toward the Odyssey Dawn until it touched their hull. And then it sank inside, as if the metal itself had swallowed it. "Captain, something just entered the ship," Lane said, panic in his voice. Reeves didn't panic. His eyes stayed on the alien ships as they vanished into the city of light. "They're not attacking," he said. "No," Avery replied quietly. "They're marking us." The crew didn't know it yet, but the small sphere wasn't just a tracker. It was a key-on invitation, or a warning. And the moment it fused. With their ship, every sensor in the Galactic Empire lit up. Earth had been noticed, and the Empire would never ignore it. The Odyssey Dawn drifted in silence. Every crew member felt it. The ship no longer belonged only to them. Something alien had touched it. Something powerful. Captain Reeves stood in the center of the bridge, his jaw set. He had commanded missions across the solar frontier, but nothing had prepared him for the metallic sphere now fused deep inside their ship. They couldn't see it, but the sensors confirmed it was there, pulsing faintly like a second heart. Engineering report, Reeves said into the com. Sir, it's part of the ship now, Chief Engineer Harris replied, voice tight. I don't mean attached, I mean merged. It's rewriting our systems. Those words sent a ripple of unease across the bridge. Rewriting? That meant vulnerability. Lieutenant Avery stepped closer to the captain. They didn't kill us. They didn't even disable us. They tagged us. Why? Reeves didn't answer. Because deep down, he already suspected the truth. The Galactic Empire flets. That's what they were, had just placed humanity under observation. Not for war. Not yet. For study. A sudden alarm shattered the tense silence. Multiple warp signatures incoming, shouted the tactical officer. On the view screen, space itself seemed to tear open and massive shapes emerged. These weren't the small silver craft from before. These were warships, each one the size of a city, their hulls carved with glowing patterns that shifted like living fire. Dear God, Avery whispered. They weren't here to say hello. Voice not sound, but thought filled every human mind on the ship. It was deep, ancient, and calm. But behind the calm was something cold. Human vessel. You have entered Imperial space. Your world is unknown to us. You will be taken for evaluation. Communications Officer Lane staggered back, clutching his head. There. They're in my mind, Captain. I can feel them searching. The warships moved into formation, surrounding the Odyssey Dawn like predators closing in on prey. Weapons weren't aimed, but the message was clear. There was no escape. Then, against every protocol, Reeves did something reckless. He opened the comm, says Captain Elias Reeves of the human starship Odyssey Dawn. We didn't come here to threaten you. We came here because of a signal you sent. For a long moment, nothing happened. Then the voice returned. We did not send a signal. The crew exchanged alarmed looks. If they didn't send it, then who had? Before they could ask more, a beam of golden light shot from the nearest warship, striking the Odyssey Dawn. The ship shuddered, and every human felt a strange weight press against them as if invisible. Hands were holding them down, Captain. We're being pulled in, Harris reported. Reeves gripped the armrest of his chair. No one resisted. No one spoke. Because in that moment, they all knew the same thing. Humanity had just been claimed. By the Galactic Empire. The Odyssey Dawn emerged from warp, and the crew gasped. Before them stretched a sight no human eye had ever seen. An entire star system, every planet, every moon was alive with cities. Bridges of light connected worlds in titanic space. Stations hung in the void like jeweled crowns. It was not just a city. It was civilization on a scale beyond comprehension. The Galactic Empire's capital. From the bridge, Lieutenant Avery whispered, It's beautiful. Beside her, Chief Harris muttered, Looks expensive. Wonder what the rent is. Even in the presence of something so alien, the humans couldn't help but react like themselves. Avery smirked. We're in the middle of first contact with the most powerful empire in the galaxy, and you're thinking about rent? Hey, Harris shrugged. Priorities? As they drew closer, they could see massive vessels gliding between worlds like silent leviathans. Each ship bore markings older than human history, and yet there was order. No chaos, no sign of war. The warship that had captured them led the Odyssey Dawn into a docking ring the size of Earth's moon. As the clamps locked, the alien voice returned not in their minds this time, but through speakers, clear and formal. Human crew, you will disembark. You will be escorted to the Imperial Council. The airlock hissed open, and a wave of warm, scented air flowed in. The crew stepped out into a hall of polished black stone, lined with alien guards in silver armor. They were twice the height of any human with eyes that glowed faintly, like embers in the dark. One guard spoke, his voice a low rumble. Follow. Captain Reeves led the way, his steps calm, measured. The others followed, their boots clicking against the strange stone. Through towering doors, they entered the grand hall. It was vast, so vast, the ceiling vanished into clouds. Columns of crystal rose like frozen lightning, and in the center stood a circular platform surrounded by beings from dozens of species. Some were insect-like, others shimmered like living water, so a few floated as if gravity meant nothing to them. The humans stopped, waiting for whatever came next. The alien counselors leaned forward, studying them like scientists observing a rare specimen. One finally spoke in perfect English. "You have crossed into our dominion without permission. Your species will be judged." The humans exchanged glances. Then Harris broke the tension by muttering under his breath, "Judged? Like, on what? Fashion sense?" Avery smirked. Reeves hid a grin, and the aliens looked at each other, confused. In the face of the greatest empire in the galaxy, the humans weren't trembling. They were acting like it was just another day. And that, more than anything, unsettled the empire. The grand hall was silent. The alien counselors stared down from their crystal thrones, their strange eyes unblinking. Finally, the being in the center tall, robed in living light, spoke. "Humanity, you've entered our borders without knowledge, without invitation, and without fear. We must know why." Captain Reeves stepped forward. His voice was steady. "It was an accident. We were exploring deep space. A signal reached us. We followed it, and now we're here." Ripple went through the council. "Accident? No species accidentally entered the Galactic Empire. The borders were protected by quantum locks, ancient and unbreakable." Another counselor, shaped like a floating mass of shimmering threads, hissed, "Impossible. The locks are perfect." Reeves shrugged. "Guess no one told us." The guards stiffened. The aliens weren't used to this kind of answer, simple, almost careless. Humans didn't seem to understand the weight of what they had done. Then the robed figure leaned forward. "You do not kneel. You do not beg. Every species we have met, every civilization has come in fear, desperate for our favor. Why not you?" Harris couldn't hold it in. "Well, we've got bills to pay. Rent's too high. Coffee prices keep going up. We don't have time to be scared of space politics." The translator repeated his words perfectly. The alien counselors blinked. A few murmured in languages the translator didn't even recognize. And then something strange happened. One of the counselors, an ancient stone-skinned being, laughed. It was deep, booming, and shook the chamber. Others stared in shock. The robed figure spoke again, slower this time. "Your species does not think. Like the others, you move without fear. You trespass without intent to conquer. You speak without false words." He paused, then his voice grew more serious. "This makes you dangerous." The humans tensed. Guards shifted, ready to move. But then the alien leader said something no one expected. "It also makes you valuable." The room erupted in whispers. The robed figure raised a hand, silencing all. "You will not be punished. Instead, you will be invited. Humanity will send an envoy to this council. We wish to understand you. We wish to learn from you." Reeves's crew exchanged glances. They had come here by accident. Now they were being asked to join the most powerful empire in the galaxy. Harris leaned toward Avery and whispered, "So, does this come with a paycheck?" Avery smirked. "I think it comes with more than that." As they turned to leave, escorted back to their ship, Reeves glanced over his shoulder at the towering council. In their eyes, he saw something rare. Not fear. Not anger, respect. And in that moment, he knew this accident had just changed Earth's place in the universe forever.